Commission meeting for September 18th, 2018. For those that have not had the pleasure of attending one of our meetings before, a couple of housekeeping notes. If you would silence your cell phones, it would make things a lot easier. Also, once we're done with the roll call and approval of the minutes, the way it works is city staff will present on an item. Once they're done, it's open just to the commission for technical questions. Once we're done with our technical questions, we open it up to the public for questions and comments. And if you have anything to say, we welcome it. Please step up to the microphone over there and state your name and address so we have it for the minutes. Once everybody who has desires to speak has had that opportunity, we could go back to the commission for discussion and a vote, and then we move on to the next item. So with that, let us call the roll.
Kathleen Propp.
Here.
David Borsick.
Present.
Ed Bowen. Steve Cummings.
Here.
Michael Ford. John Hins. John Kiefer. Robert Weigart.
Here.
Thomas Perry.
Here.
Andrew Mott.
Here.
Thomas Foytot.
Here. Approval of the minutes from September 4th. Do we have anything to add, delete, et cetera, et cetera?
Move to approve. Second.
All those in favor say aye, please.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion clearly passes. Let us move on to item number 1. Residential design standard variance to allow a non-compliant standing seam metal roof at 523 West 4th Avenue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Welcome, sir.
So for this item, kind of came to us in an unconventional manner. So the applicant's basically requesting approval of a variance to allow non-compliant standing seam roofing on a residential property. So here's the subject site in blue on the screen up there. You can see it. It's surrounded by a lot of 2 flat residential zone properties, so single and 2 family residential. There is the sanitation division for the city of Oshkosh just to the north across the street there, across 4th Avenue. And there's a few mixed-use properties to the west and some multifamily further on beyond that. Subject site here, an aerial of it. You can see it there a little bit better. I'm just kind of showing the subject site and some of the surrounding properties. Here is a contextual Google Street View photograph showing looking east on 4th. So I think the subject property is on the right there. I don't know if I have the right mouse here. Yeah. And there's some vacant lots, but then looking down, you can see similar scale residential there. So basically, the applicant approached us because what happened was he went and installed standing seam metal roofing on his garage and house. I think another resident called the city, asked staff if he had obtained a permit for the work. And we looked, did some investigation and found out that he had obtained a permit for a metal roof over existing shingles on the garage. That was issued in November of last year, as you can see up on the screen there on the right. But then the permit that he obtained for the house roof was for asphalt shingles over asphalt shingles. So not for standing seam metal roof. What he did was he must have paid a contractor, had the roofing installed, but obviously the permit that was issued and the work that he did are not the same. They're not consistent. So planning services staff sent correction notices. Basically, we informed him that he could either bring the roof into compliance after obtaining a valid permit, or he would have to go for a design standards variance. Basically, this is essentially what I'm aware of that happened. I got involved. He submitted some specs and some material information. We looked at it. We found that there were a number of issues with the roofing. You can see here are some images of the roofing that was installed. I think either one of the inspectors or one of us was out there. Can't remember if the inspection services division or we in planning were out there first, but these pictures were taken. It's a little bit higher reflective material than what we would permit. It's hard to see here, but there are exposed fasteners. The gauge is a 29 gauge, I believe, rather than the minimum 24 gauge. And it was installed over the existing shingles. So it conflicts at least with 4 separate sections of the ordinance. We looked at our current ordinance for this because we did not have a benchmark by which to compare it with, since it would not have been permitted before our ordinance was passed. To remind you, the ordinance took effect March 27th, or was passed by council March 27th of this year. here is just some material information here. So it looks like he used a ProGrip product. Again, a 29 gauge in this case, as far as I'm aware. They have a number of different thicknesses, but I believe that's the one that he put on. Some sheets showing some of the colors of it. I forget exactly which color, maybe he can clarify, but I know his was a lighter color than what seemed to be acceptable, and we would have had to do some more research to find out the exact reflectivity of it. So basically, we looked at this, and we looked at the fact that the permit that was issued and the work that was done were not consistent with one another. The applicant said that the inspection services staff issued the wrong permit. I have nothing to substantiate that as a staff person. I don't know. All I know is that the work done and the permit conflict. A lot of the work conflicts with a lot of the provisions of the ordinance. So we, as staff, recommended denial of this variance for those reasons. And that is essentially what I have on this one.
All right, thank you, sir. Technical questions, David Borzak, and then Ed.
If I understand, even if the correct permit was issued for a standing seat, that on other basis, that this was not an acceptable product?
Yes. If what we've been doing with recent ones is we've had the applicant come to us, and they'll bring us some material information, and we'll let them know, here, okay, it works, or it conflicts in these ways. So, yes, this would not have been an acceptable product.
Okay, thank you.
And the installation would not have been acceptable as far as we were concerned.
Yes.
Yep.
Ed?
And just so I can understand the timeline here, did this work occurred prior to our passing of the ordinance allowing standing seam metal roofing?
It sounds like the garage work occurred prior because that permit was a late permit. The house work, I am not exactly sure when that occurred. And of course, we're more concerned with the house, but
Right.
I don't know if it was a late permit in that case.
So was a
Permit
so
was,
a permit was issued for standing seam metal roofing on the garage,
yep, and
and that's permitted under the current ordinance or the prior ordinance?
prior ordinance did not, we did not address detached accessory structures.
Okay, so on a garage, prior to us passing our current ordinance that came through here, I remember, a garage or accessory structure was acceptable to use, it was acceptable to use a standing seam metal roofing product on an accessory structure.
I believe so, right there?
Correct.
Yes.
Hence, the permit being issued for standing seam metal roofing on the garage.
Yep.
Correct.
Okay, so under that prior ordinance, it was not acceptable to have that material on the primary structure.
Not permitted, correct.
It was,
Not
it was
permitted
not
at
a,
all.
it was not a permitted material.
Nope.
Under any circumstances.
Correct.
So the new ordinance allowed it on the primary structure, provided that it met those particular,
The design standards.
yeah, the design standards.
And I know the whole grounds for requiring that the roofing be stripped down to the sheathing was because the fire chief at the time, Tim
Was
Franz,
concerned, yeah. I
recommended
remember
that when we went through the whole ordinance process, so. Yep.
It appears that and from the staff report, Stephen said we adopted it 4/11/17, the standing seam.
That was put in there, and that was something I think that was a typo in the ordinance, and so wanted to clarify, because we had a lot of amendments last year, and for some reason that was missed and put in for this one.
Okay.
It was adopted this year.
Yeah,
Or-
it sounds a lot more
What's the date?
recent.
Yeah, I thought it was.
So March 27th of this year, council approved it.
Gotcha.
Other technical questions? Okay, seeing none, anyone here from the public to speak to this item, if you'd be so kind as to step up to the microphone and state your name and address, we would appreciate that. Okay, going once, going twice. Come on up, sir.
My name is Blair Jost. I'm the owner of the property that's being discussed. And I had submitted a letter for variance to Stephen, is it, I believe? And I filed for variance because he was telling me that it was wrong. But to clarify something on the permit, I did tell the party when I applied that it was steel at the time for the house. And they must have typed in, and I didn't even look when I went down to pay for it at downstairs. So, a mistake on my part not to check it before I left, and then when they came back after the roof was done, I called for the inspection, and then I was told that it was not proper, so I looked at it, and sure enough, it did say shingles over shingles, but I told distinctly the person at the desk that it was steel over shingles. I said, same as the garage roof. So that's where that mess came in, and then the others, I had purchased material already, and I found a party that would install it for me due to the fact that my age, and I'm not very good at climbing anymore, and so I paid the labor for that, and so I'm in a quandary right now. I mentioned that the money is gone, and I just had hoped that it would clear, but I see, it's on the screen, it said no, so I don't know what I'll be doing after this. I'm just up here to let you know where I'm at.
Okay, we have any questions for the applicant as long as he's up there? David?
When, did you purchase the roof separately as opposed to the contractor or the
Yes, I
installer?
Yes, I did. I was planning on doing the work myself, but my health took a terrible turn. My heart went bad, and since then I had a pacemaker put in, and I just realized my limitations. I'm planning on hopefully selling out pretty soon because it's just getting too much to try to keep things up anymore.
Any other questions for the petitioner? Thank you very much, sir. Anyone else to speak to this item today? Okay, then public comment is closed. Let's bring it back to the commission and let's wrestle with it.
My
Robert
understanding
and
that
Kathy.
the ordinance says that it has to be done by a professional to put this on, that you can't do it yourself.
Yes, I believe so. Yep.
Say
I
that.
believe I remember that
At
one.
least I know,
It
Actually-
says, the code is right here.
let's see here, actually. No, the paint must be done at the factory. Actually, I don't know that we have a provision here that says it has to be a licensed contractor per se.
We have to be a licensed contractor to install it. That's a state code.
Yep.
But I don't think, we shy away from putting those things actually in the ordinance language themselves.
But that's a state code, you say?
They have a license installer, correct? Because if you're a general contractor coming
Does
in,
that refer to Oshkosh also then?
Yep, they have to come in, like, for them, they have to have their license through the state to pull a permit. Otherwise, the property owner has to pull the permit. Yep.
Kathy? And then David?
oh, good point.
Ed pointed out something, I was napping over here, that it was legal to put a metal roof on a garage,
Yep, because
but
our,
not legal to put a metal roof on a house, even though they would be, right next to each other.
Might have been a miss in the code at some point. I mean, there's misses in the code, and then when we update them. Remember, there was a miss in the code at some point where we didn't even consider allowing steel roofs on, well, these type of steel roofs on houses, on single-family houses.
Yeah,
And then
no, I remember that,
we went through the whole process.
yeah, no, I remember that. No, because that's strange. I was thinking the whole thing was non-compliant, but then
Yeah.
one thing was, if we deny this, it goes to the council, or are we the
Appeals.
Nope.
best,
I think
That's
you're the
the-
final ones. Yep.
we're the only ones?
You're gonna
So-
find the next step could potentially be the Board of Appeals.
Next step is what?
Next step could potentially be the Board of Appeals. We'd have to look at that.
Go back to the board, or he,
Go to the Board of Appeals, because you can seek relief from decisions that we've made
oh,
at
okay,
any time through the Board of Appeals as well.
oh, okay. And they
There-
haven't considered it yet?
They haven't considered it because they haven't applied for it yet, but they have a harder statutory standard to meet for the Board of Appeals than we do at the
And we
planning.
do?
Correct. which is why we have a lot of design standards variances coming through here, because it's
Yeah.
easier to work with we have a housing stack that's so wide and varied with respect to age, materials, and things like that, that sometimes just having one code provision looked at by the Board of Appeals, it's tougher to grant a variance for some of these unique cases.
Okay. Well, clearly a lot of things were done wrong in this situation. Maybe the gentleman just didn't understand, but we have an awful lot of problems with it. I don't know what his options are now. What do you do with an inadequate steel roof, metal roof?
You replace it. I mean, right now it wasn't done to code in its installation nor the materials, and we get caught in these positions all the time. Somebody comes in, does the work wrong, then comes to the Plan Commission to try and get relief for work that's either been done without permit or has been done wrong. And that's where we wrestle through these issues. From our standpoint, this particular one, there's a lot wrong with it. It doesn't meet the gauge requirements. We don't think it meets the reflectance requirements. It's over asphalt shingles, and that was an issue that was raised by the fire chief. So from this standpoint, it was harder for us to get behind a position or find a way to make this work. There's no way that we can find a way from a staff level to make this work.
Okay, thank you.
David?
And I think when I bisect this, the question, I see two. The permit issue, which, in my mind, I could give a variance or some relief. I have real problems, and this is sort of repetitive, whether it's windows, whether it's is material being installed that is non-compliant or is installed before the proper process is done. But we spent a lot of time on looking at the installation, and I'm particularly concerned about a life safety issue. And you know that that this is not going to come up if and when the house is sold, but for that, just because of the material that was used, because of the installation process, and because of the life safety issue, which I think is critical, that I can't support giving a variance. And one of the suggestions I might have is that we give a copy of the ordinance to people like Menards and other home buildings, so that they at least can have that information available to say, if you're planning on using this product in the city of Oshkosh, it's non-compliant, or the gauge is non-compliant, or this is not. So that's my position.
Those are two really good points, Dave, and I gotta agree with you. When it comes to safety issues, and the fire chief pointed it out, I can't let it pass, so.
If we do approve it,
Right?
it seems to me in a pretty bad position.
To be a past firefighter, I agree with the chief 100% on that, because you get something going under that, it's gonna contain it. And it's gonna burn out the inside before that roof is probably gonna start buckling, and we don't know what happens then.
So it's the gauge and the color?
Other thoughts from the commission before we vote?
I'll make a motion. How do we get that one? To approve
The denial.
the denial, right? That's,
No,
we're making a motion in the affirmative.
Yeah, we follow Roberts, so
Right.
so we're recommending denial. The appropriate is to move for approval, and then if you support,
Supporting the city's recommendation
then you.
We are
You
moving,
vote no.
I'm
Then you
moving
vote
approval
no,
of the
correct.
city's
to
recommendation.
deny.
No.
So,
No?
No, you move, see, we're just, approval,
this is how often we deny things.
Yeah.
We don't know how to do it.
motion for approval of the variance request. That's how you do it. Motion
So
to,
then, okay, then if we don't approve of the variance, we would vote no.
correct.
Got it. Correct.
Did
So,
you catch,
move-
did you catch that,
It's a
Ed?
positive
So you
motion
can
if we
move
vote
to
no.
approve the variance request
I vote for Bob. How does that sound?
I move to approve the variance request.
Second.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? So if you vote yes, you're approving the variance. If you vote no, you're not approving the variance. Let's call the roll.
Prop,
No.
Orsick,
No.
Bowen,
No.
Cummings,
No.
Kiefer,
No.
Weigert,
No.
Perry,
No.
Mott,
No.
Wojtek.
No.
Motion denied 9-0.
I would suggest that Mr. Lewis contact our office and see if there's anything that we can figure out how to make it work.
All right, let us move on to item number 2. Design standards variance to allow construction of an addition with materials not substantially similar to the existing building at 347 North Sawyer Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So we have a variance, another design standards variance request, and we had this at a workshop for the last meeting. This is the Image 316 building located at 347 North Sawyer. They were looking to do that building addition. It's currently a brick, kind of a blackish looking brick building. They'd like to do an addition onto the north side along Porter Avenue, and they're looking to do some other materials. So we have the land use of the area. It's commercial, kind of the north and the south, multifamily to the west, and institutional as part of a church to the east. Here we again have an aerial. You can see the church to the east. This is the site. It is bordered by yards on 3 of the 4 sides. And location of the addition is here on the north side of the building. Petitioner is looking at doing a 47 by 35 addition to the north facade using a mixture of vinyl, composite, brick, EFIS, and pre-finished metal. So here you can see from the site plan is the location of that addition. It's kind of off the north side. Here are the elevations of the building. So this would be the, get ourselves oriented correctly, this would be the west side of the building, where the overhead door would face to the west. This would be then the elevation from Porter. This is the addition portion is slightly recessed back from the primary facade along the primary street. Here would be from looking from the primary street at the building. This is the addition, and again, it's recessed a little bit back. So they're looking at using the vinyl composite brick for this portion. The arches would then be the stucco EFIS to kind of mimic the arches around the main building. And it does have some pre-finished kind of metal fascia around the outside of the building. So here's a rendering of that building. So you can see it's the vinyl clad composite brick. This is the stucco EFIS to give that arch look that the rest of the building has. And then the metal cladding around the top. It requires that a building addition be substantially similar to the existing structure. Staff felt that this was a candidate for design standards variance because it is not, brick is not necessarily substantially similar in the type of product, but through the design standards variance, they can maybe achieve the similar feel and look of the building. So in looking at this, staff looked at a couple of things for the curb appeal: potential impact on the building modification to the architectural integrity of the building, limits of the proposed building size, location of the addition in relation to the primary street frontage, and potential impact on that block. So here you can see just another kind of image of the building. This is a little bit of information about the product. They're looking at using this char brown. It's Tando stone. It's a vinyl composite brick. Here are some applications of this that have been used other places. I believe this is in Ripon, excuse me. It's a very similar product, just of a lighter color that we use on the outside of a building. This was a commercial application of it. Here we have a residential application that used it. This was more of kind of one of the brown tones where they cladded basically an entire residential structure in it. A couple more views of the same structure. So staff is recommending approval of the variance. When staff evaluated it, we basically, the location of the building and the lot not being directly against the primary street frontage, and it does look like this product would blend in with the existing brick, especially being the darker color. Staff kind of felt it would hopefully match and not create that substantial difference. So staff recommends approval with a couple conditions. The colors of the cladding of the new building shall be similar in appearance to that of the cladding of the original building. Any additional work beyond this would require a separate review. Staff finds that the variance would not be contrary to public interest and that the variance is needed so the spirit of the ordinance is maintained.
All right, thank you, sir. Technical questions, David?
I think there were at least several questions. One was with the product, and that was the durability that I know that we can.
Yep.
But was there not also, I thought that it was raised about the appearance of the overhead door. And now we see two different renderings, but that overhead door will be facing the,
So that would be facing, let's go back to the site plan here. That overhead door would be located basically right here.
and facing the.
So it's facing the multifamily residential across the
Correct.
street.
And we have, there it was all flush, we show in our packet pictures, but the point being that I think we looked at, what can they do to soften it up, not to make it look
Yeah.
as
We
industrial?
could probably look at maybe varying the color or something, similar to what we did on the Wagyu one, where we varied the color of the door to blend in a little more. You know, maybe go with a black colored door that matches the brick a little more. I think that'd be something that
Okay.
we'll talk to.
Yeah. Other technical questions? Okay, seeing none, anyone here from the public to speak to this item tonight? Come on up, sir.
Yeah.
Hi there, I'm Gavin Dorsch from Ripon, Wisconsin. I did the design work for Mr. White's building, and I did bring some sample materials along of the siding, if anybody here wasn't in the workshop when we handled it. And then I could address any questions that you may have also. So why don't we start with that?
Yeah, the first was the durability. I think that we weren't sure where and how long this product was installed. And I think that was something that you were gonna come back and get some questions of what is the life cycle of these?
Unfortunately, I did reach out to the Tando company twice. They did not contact me back. The contractor was able to get some information from a distributor. But the Pastimes building picture, the one that was done in Ripon, that has the lighter colored brick, that panel right now is at least been on that building for 12 years. I live in Ripon, so I drive past that building every day. And I believe at least 12 years or more, they did this upgrade where there was actually a building up next to this where the courtyard is, the outside area. They tore that building down. And because when they tore the building down, it had a common wall, which just had regular masonry in there. They didn't have a brick to match the brick that was there. So they sheathed the wall to meet the fire rating and then covered it with this material. And like I said, it's been there for quite a while.
Is there any warranty or guarantee from the manufacturer?
We can definitely get that information from you. I'm going to assume it probably carries a minimum 20-year warranty like almost any other product that's out there. Like I said, it was hard to get them to talk to me. The distributors, no problem. You know, the ones that supply it, we were able to get information and get a address to that second home. And that second home is a funny little story. The house, that's replacing a house that was there that burned down. It was covered in that brick, and that brick is the brick that's on the patio, on the porch. It was the original brick saved from the original home. Homeowners could not afford to put brick all the way around their facility or their new home, so they had this material put on instead. And I can tell you this, when you're standing like at the sidewalk of Tim White's building and you take a look at that, you're not gonna know that that's not brick. And if you need to see, this is a sample of the panel when it's put on a substrate. It's fairly stiff. I can pass it around if you'd like to see.
Yeah, please do.
I also have the color sample too. I'll pass that around also.
But that, the second question about the garage door
Yes,
is,
we can pretty that up. I use white because the building is so black, and he has white already on his barrel vault facades in the front. So in my mind, I decided I'll put a little white on that wall to help break up the monotony of it. That could also be done in a different color. I mean, the nice thing about overhead doors and walk doors can be painted, overhead doors can a myriad of colors. And also designs. I mean, if you guys would like to see more of a raised panel look door that is a little softer look than just the rib, that can be done also.
So you'll work with whoever to,
Sure, yeah, I mean, if that's one,
Make it a
that's
little
gonna be-
less.
that could be a condition of the approval, and we could take it from there.
thank you.
Or if it's just an understanding.
We can condition as part of the final approval that we'll work with them to. I was just gonna pull up the existing building if anyone wanted to see kind of a street view of what we.
Yeah, I apologize for the rendering being a little dark, but it was a little hard with it being all black.
So that is the facade in which the building addition would be taking place.
Correct.
These would be removed. This is basically the area where the addition would occupy.
All right. Go ahead, Kathy, and then Thomas.
Drove by there today, and the existing building is, I'm gonna call it a dark red brick. Is that a fair statement? The existing building, it's not black.
It is black. When you walk up, we have to actually walk up to it. Thing is, the brick is a little.
Oh, I'm thinking about the back end of it. Yeah, just to the left of that, that's not black.
That
That is not black.
The brick on the building is all identical. I don't know if it's a light thing or what. I mean, I'm not trying to
Oh.
argue with you, but that brick is the same brick all the way around the building, and
Okay,
I think,
and you're calling it black.
well,
Okay,
for lack of a better word.
okay.
Yeah, and unfortunately, they don't make, that brick is not available anymore either. So we're kind of limited to that. I mean, if we were to put a new brick up, which would be substantially more of a cost than the budget would allow, it still won't match or look the same because it was made in 1965. The building was built in 1965, so to get that same brick would be almost impossible.
Okay, well, I was part of the workshop, and I agreed to this kind of a thing.
No, I can tell
And
you
as long
that-
as the colors are reasonably compatible and the garage door isn't too vibrant.
I walked around that building when I measured it originally, and the closer you get to it, the more black it is. And depending on where the sun is
Okay.
shining, there must be some other tint in the mortar or tint in the brick that allows it to not be quite as dark as the sun
Okay.
hits it in a certain way.
Okay,
Thomas?
thank you.
The increase in height in the addition, is that due to accommodate the door?
It is to accommodate the clearance of the track for the overhead door. We've got the roof system is as low as I can get it structurally. Basically, it sticks up above the other roof at about 1.5 feet. And I was hoping that stepped fascia will help transition that into the existing smooth fascia that's on the building now.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the petitioner's answer? Anything to add?
No, thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Anyone else from the public here to speak to this item today? Seeing none, back to the commission.
Motion to approve recommendations.
Everyone? Been moved and seconded. David?
I just, I don't, if it's understood that they'll come and work with staff, then it's not necessary to put a condition about the garage door.
Yeah, I think we understand that right there.
Okay. Any more discussion? Go ahead. John?
I drove by after the workshop meeting too, and as you can tell from those pictures here on the big screen, there's no landscaping at all in this entire lot, I don't believe, besides the terrace.
Right there, we understand.
The garbage dumpster sits out in the open. Is there anything that we should be looking at to require, or is there anything we can do? I mean,
A lot of these are old legal non-conforming dumpsters that sat out there before we ever required enclosures. It's not something staff really evaluated because the design standards are always, the current commercial design standards we have are specific to the building. If this was a planned development or something like that, we would probably broaden our scope to look at some of those issues. But with the design standards variance, we generally look at just that issue.
Yeah, we're trying to, on these, like Mark said, if it was a PD or maybe a conditional use or something, might be looking at the broader site, but we don't typically try to use these processes to try and cure all the ills that are at the site.
In all the
Proper
sites,
place
Matt.
and time,
Yeah,
That's
Cool.
the street.
That's-
They're all eyesores. That's
And
what-
we used to not have the requirements like we do now for dumpster enclosures with setbacks and fencing and screening around them like we do today. So it's unfortunately very common to have these type of situations.
Ed, and then David.
Just out of curiosity, you touched on landscaping. Would the new portion of the building, again, we're not trying to cure old ills with this, but would the new portion of the building be subject to the new foundation planting
It
requirement?
would not, it is not a 50% increase in the
So
gross floor area.
this
of the
doesn't
building.
trigger that
Correct.
requirement because of the size, okay. I wasn't
Dave?
sure.
Boy, that was a great catch. You focus on other things. But this is, whether we look at stormwater or other issues when we're retrofitting, this is our opportunity to address some of those. And I think we may want to, pick and choose. But certainly, I don't think that it's out of context or out of purview if we were to, whether we ask for landscaping or particularly the enclosure of the dumpster, of the trash. I don't think that's overreaching. I think it is.
I mean, I would somewhat disagree with you in that, if we said you have to bring your parking lot up into compliance and install the curbing and all that, would that be appropriate? I don't think it would be appropriate. I think where those are, the most appropriate is when we're doing negotiations through the plan development process and potentially as it relates to a conditional use permit. It's my personal opinion, but
I would say the majority of the case law out there from Wisconsin would not support putting those type of conditions on something like a design standards variance. They generally, the case law out there supports conditional uses in plan developments.
now, if you're looking to soften something on the new addition itself, something related to that addition, maybe foundational landscaping would be.
Yeah, I think foundation landscaping,
Whether it's appropriate, I'm just saying,
Yeah.
whether it's appropriate or not, that might be something, because it relates to that design standards variance request.
Well,
Call the question.
all right, motion on the floor. Call the roll.
Crop,
Aye.
Warsick,
Aye.
Bowen,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
Kiefer,
Aye.
Weigert,
Aye.
Carey,
Aye.
Mott,
Aye.
Wojtek.
Aye.
Motion approved 9-0.
All right, moving on to item number 3, a zone change from central mixed use district to 2 flat residential, TR10 district for property located at 222 West 8th Avenue.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have a zone change request in, so the applicant currently resides at 222 West 8th Avenue. They have recently purchased the lot adjacent to them. So here you can see the current land use map. Here is their existing single-family home. Here is the vacant lot adjacent to them that they purchased. So zoning map here, the current lot they are looking to purchase or have purchased is TR10 zoning. Their current lot is CMU. The applicant would like to combine those parcels. Under Oshkosh statutes, you cannot combine those parcels unless they carry the same zoning district. So staff evaluated this, looking at what would be the best avenue to move forward. As this is a single-family structure, staff's opinion, it makes sense to carry the TR10 single-family zoning district over onto the applicant's existing home, therefore then allowing them the ability to combine the 2 parcels they own. So here's an aerial of the property. You can see there's a vacant lot, and then their existing single-family structure. With that said, staff is recommending approval of the zone change. It is a relatively straightforward request in order to be able to combine those parcels for taxing purposes, water, utilities, all of that stuff. It would need to carry the same zoning district.
All right, technical questions. Okay, seeing none, anyone here from the public to speak to this item today? Come on up, sir.
I am the resident there, and as you said, the main
Name and address.
Eric Sievert, 222 West 8th
All right.
Ave. So, like you just said, the reason that I want to combine the two is so I can only get one property tax bill, one utility bill. I have been paying two separate ones for years since I purchased the lot, and I mean, finally somebody has given me the information that I need in order to combine them. So, yeah, that's the reason. So.
All right. Thank you, sir. Anyone else here to speak to this item today? Seeing none, back to the commission.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion?
Good idea.
Yeah, I agree. Call the roll, please.
Crop,
Aye.
Horsick,
Aye.
Owen,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
Kiefer,
Aye.
Weigart,
Aye.
Perry,
Aye.
Mott,
Aye.
Wojtek.
Aye.
Motion approved 9-0.
Item number 4 has been removed, correct?
We just get it published, that was the plan.
Okay. Moving on to item number 5, approval of a specific implementation plan amendment for a new electronic message center at 3530 Omni Drive at Omni Glass and Paint.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome, sir.
So this one is just a specific implementation plan amendment to allow a new EMC on this site. Here is the subject site up on the screen. You can see it in red, obviously the blue outline around it, but then red fill in the site here. It's urban industrial PD, that's what the zoning is. So it does have a plan development, and I believe they went through and got a plan development and a conditional use permit back in October of 2006. Then, it's basically, that allowed for a 70,000 square foot building on the site, first of all. Kind of a mixed use building. It's all owned by Omni Glass and Paint. They have a few different operations that go on there. So they have like their commercial glass and paint operation. They have associated office, manufacturing, retail showroom uses in that facility there. Later on, after the initial CUP and PD, they came back and in 2007 got a plan development amendment to convert some of the parking into outdoor storage. Here's an overview, or aerial actually, of the site here. So you can see their facility. They have some parking and storage space, additional parking, access drives here, and then they have easement or a stormwater, I think, easement here that runs down through the site. There is also their sign that's in question that we'll get to here, that's located right there. They own a lot of the parcels too, to the immediate north. And then there's a few other industrial and commercial uses up there too. Just kind of shows a map that we produced, and that then the applicant drew the location of their existing pylon sign there. You can see the sign here from a Google view from 41. Basically, this SIP amendment is only for the EMC. There's nothing else on site that's being changed or altered. All the parking, landscaping, lighting, all that stuff was addressed as part of the original plan development. So none of that's changing. It's just for this EMC here. So you can see the pylon sign. It's about 220 or so feet from the center line of 41. 41 is the main highway along with 45 that kind of bounds the site. The interchange of 41 and 45 is just to the south of the site. I should have mentioned that before. But one of their main vantage points is, or their frontages is along 41. And their argument is that with the traffic's speed, 70 or more miles per hour, the 220 foot or so distance from 41, it's difficult for motorists to see their existing EMC. I believe it is 3.5 feet tall by about 18 feet wide, so it's about 65 square feet in area. What they are asking for, essentially, here's another view. You can see that sign here on the left side here. So if you're looking northbound on 41, here's their facility, the sign, EMC there. They're asking for essentially is a base standard modification to go from this here to something like this on the bottom left here. So they'd keep the pylon sign, and they'd keep the, this sign here, but then the EMC portion of it would change. It would be about 8 feet by probably 19 feet in dimension, so it'd be about 148 square feet in area. Ordinance only permits 50 square feet for EMC for urban industrial zoning. Signage such as this was not addressed, to my knowledge, as part of the original PD, so our base standards apply. That 50 square feet is a hard cap. There's no addition or adjustment to it, essentially, unless they come through for this. So we as staff looked at this, looked at what the applicant, listened to what they were saying, considered what they were saying. We are supportive of it. They do not have any other surface mounted signage or ground mounted signage on the site. We looked at a provision in the ordinance, so the maximum permitted sign area for ground signage is 400 square feet per side for sites that are 2 acres or more in area. This site's over 12 acres. You know, it's a pretty fair sized site. What we figured was that we could allow the base standard modification for this EMC with the condition that they do not exceed the 400 square feet of ground signage. This cabinet here also, or this pylon, I should say, a better word, would not be more, or would not increase in height from what it is currently. I believe it's about 40 feet high. It would stay at that height. No modifications would be made to the other aspects of the site. Anything in the future would be filed as separate requests and come back through the Plan Commission. And then the EMC would have to meet all standards as laid out in section 30-280 of the zoning ordinance. So we are supportive of it. We think in a way it's analogous to Bergstrom. I know theirs is a little different in the sense that they had a lot of different sites, I think, and they combined it all in one EMC. This one, they're just taking basically all the ground signage for the site and combining it in the area of that pylon sign there. So that's where we approached it, how we approached it, and that's essentially what I have on this one.
All right, please tell me that the person driving the car wasn't the one taking the photograph.
No, I don't believe so.
That didn't come from us.
Oh, okay.
That was just a Google Street View
All
image,
right.
so hopefully it wasn't.
All right.
Yeah. Yep.
Technical questions from the commission. Okay. Anybody here from the public to speak to this item today? Okay, seeing none, back to the commission.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? One question I have. Sure. I've noticed some of the other electronic signs are now so bright that it is distractingly so. Are there any kind of ordinances or things that deal with brightness?
We do have that. Did we build that in the code?
Our code has a little bit, not a lot, not as strong as like what we put into the arena one. If you remember the arena
Yes,
one,
I do.
we put in some additional language.
Driving north on 41 south of town, there's at least one.
You know, the one on the right side
It's
of the road.
in, right,
yeah.
it is in.
That's in
I
the
mean,
county, by the way.
It's ridiculous.
They should pay Winnebago County. Oh, and the ones north of town. If you look at the one,
It's south of town.
no, there's one north of town too on the right side that's very bright that you can see. You can use it as a fog light.
Yeah. Well, it does.
Our code reads, and this is verbatim, electronic message boards shall be equipped with photosensitive equipment which automatically adjusts the brightness and contrast of the sign to the direct relation of the ambient outdoor illumination. That helps. Not
Very
as
clear.
strongly worded
Could be
as.
really good.
Or clear, all
I
right.
mean, for future requests.
'Cause I think-
So it's
we
self-regulating.
can apply
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
We can apply the standard.
I want it brighter, I'll make it brighter.
Okay.
I don't.
All right, that doesn't really, isn't material to this right now. Let's call the roll then.
All right. Crop,
Aye.
Borsick,
Aye.
Bowen,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
Kiefer,
Aye.
Weigert,
Aye.
Perry,
Aye.
Mott,
Aye.
Wojtek.
Aye.
Motion approved 9-0.
Okay, last item on the business agenda is the public hearing for the 2019 Capital Improvement Program. You should have brought your large booklets.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
So, it's that time of year again. Plan Commission to review the 2019 CIP. Again, I want to remind Plan Commission that our role in this process is reviewing the CIP for consistency with the comprehensive plan. That is all this body is tasked with doing, is looking at the comp plan, looking at the CIP, making sure they are consistent. So that being said, staff does recommend approval of it. Our review of it, it does appear to be consistent with the comprehensive plan and the things that we have going on in the city. A little different this year is we did want to highlight some changes the city has actually made for getting this information out there. So the city has launched a capital improvements program dashboard. So kind of here's a picture of it. I actually then have it loaded up on the smart board over here of the actual CIP dashboard for public to be able to get information.
Helpful in reviewing.
If
This would have been helpful in reviewing this,
Yes.
you guys.
yeah, hey, just found out about
Hey,
it.
cool tool though.
Yeah. Hey, we're working on it. So looking at it, it is a very nice program. I don't know if Steve or James are here, but you can actually. There's a lot of stuff you can do with it. I'm actually just learning as well, but you can filter it by looking at the projects for the various years. You can, it's mapped out to show you what are, say we want to look at just 2019 projects. It's going to show us the cost by the different types of elements, all the different, look from concrete work to property improvement, stormwater, water, TIF, major development, parks, sanitary, land acquisition. So they really have a nice interactive map. You can then go to specific kind of projects and look at what's going on where. So there is a lot of information kind of that they've put out here to really make it a lot easier for the public.
Oh, I can't wait till next year.
Yeah.
I don't know.
This is going to be great next year.
It's always been such a chore.
It was in the staff report.
I don't read.
Well, it was
I didn't
buried
put-
in the.
The link was in the staff report.
Yes, it was.
Oh, it is.
But yeah, so it's a great tool. I think the city is just kind of getting its feet wet with learning about this dashboard. But moving forward, this is something that it looks like Department of Public Works is planning on doing on a yearly basis to really help the public with the information. That's all I have.
All right, I don't think we have technical questions for this. I think we just opened up to the public. Oh, go ahead, David. We will.
David gets his own
Sorry,
technical
pardon me.
question.
Sorry to disappoint you.
Yeah.
I had some questions reading it, and some of them were answered already. I questioned the $140,000 for reconstruction of the rec building, rec lanes building, but it was really demolition and
Demolition and engineering related to, because they have a common wall.
common walls. I asked about the Riverwalk at Pioneer, whether or not we had easements or not. We do. I did have, what I did not see, and I thought we had seen in the past, I did not see anything for CP Otter Wagoo in the central city, when those are gonna be reconstructed. And I thought that in the past, those had been highlighted.
CP's in there from Bowling Lake.
Yeah, but in the central business district, in the central, from Main Street to the railroad tracks.
Otter's being done this year, Washington's being done this year, and Court's being done
Yes.
this year. We're under construction currently.
I don't know, I live there and I don't see any construction on CP Otter Wagoo. I see
He's
the.
done.
CP was repaved
CP's done.
years ago.
Done.
Where you been?
Otter Avenue's under construction currently. Part of it's been paved from Court east to the tracks has been paved already. Washington Avenue is under construction currently. Wagoo is not, and I do not believe that is in the 5-year CIP.
Okay,
CP won't be redone with concrete for 50 years because of the
And that was,
infrastructure was redone in the late 80s, I believe.
the sanitary interceptor was replaced in the late 80s, I believe. We did a water main project in roughly 2008 to 10 time. Replaced the water main and then put a hot mix overlay on that street from roughly Main Street to Broad Street to take care of that area. I believe east of Broad is roughly Little Street or Bowen Street's in pretty good shape, and then I think Bowen East.
I saw the lead abatement or lead pipe abatement, but what do we do from the curb to the houses, or as far as getting those replaced?
from the curb stop in the terrace to the houses owned by the property owner. When the city does replace the public side curb stop out to the main, the property owners have 6 months under our ordinance to have that replaced. Currently, we have a grant through the state to do a reimbursement on that, up to $1,500 per property, so they can come through have to have a pre-approved plumber, go through, do the paperwork submittal, but they can be reimbursed up to $1,500, but it's a private endeavor undertaken by the homeowner.
Then on the 7th and 8th Street, the gas station, which I suspect was the old Speedway station, we have, I think, $400,000 for remediation in there. It said gas station between 7th and 8th.
Oh, the old one that was over there, I think.
Yeah, and that was the old speed.
Marathon, I think it was a marathon.
Yeah, it was, yeah. Well, that's where the question I had for them is, do we get any PECFA money or any money from Marathon or U.S. Steel, who are the owners of that property?
PECFA used on that already? Years ago?
That one off the top of my head. The city acquired the property several years ago, and they did not remediate the site. They just demolished things and remediated just a bare minimum until we know what the final development plans are. The only thing I've heard of so far is WEDC funds or EPA funds that could be used for development of those parts.
I was just curious that if you could go back to the owner of the property and get a contribution from them.
Well, we'll have to look into that to see if that's possible. I don't.
You know, if it wasn't part of the buying of the property, that there was a release.
Go ahead, Ed.
Part of the, I think, if I remember reading that one, part of that is putting it into a VPLE, if I remember correctly, so.
That's been our goal for all.
Yeah, I think that is part of that process, David, so looking back at the responsible party would be part of that, right? Part of the VPLE? I believe so. If you can trace back the owner of the responsible party, you go through that.
It depends on how you purchased it originally. So,
and I don't know how you guys purchased it. You may have just taken it in the dead of night. I have no clue. So, no idea. But either way, I would think, David, that part of the dollars that are in there are for walking through that process and trying to comply with all that stuff.
All right.
I would think.
Then two additional questions. One was certainly look at the tremendous amount of money that is being expended for stormwater quality and detainage and release and cleanliness. Is this the opportunity, or when you look at the millions of dollars every year, that you look at the stormwater ordinance and start going back to what some other communities have? First spade of dirt is on any site that they have to go back and put meet the stormwater ordinances within the community. Especially now that we're looking at big box stores, we're looking at, is it 20,000 square feet, or is it, I mean, with the millions of dollars, do we want to look back and go and address it from the get-go?
Potentially change our ordinance to.
That is correct, change the stormwater ordinance.
Stormwater.
It is not a topic we have discussed, other than briefly that the impacts that would have for redevelopment would be substantial. If you're looking at sites that are trying to redevelop and need to put in a stormwater quality and quantity pond on some of the smaller sites, and you lose a substantial amount of their footprint potentially to a basin, or they would have to look at the underground storage methods, which typically are good for quality and a limited amount of quantity, just because the volume to have that much underground storage is not often that feasible for a 100-year event on some of the sites underground. So,
well, you know, it's just anyways, I think it would be something that would be worth evaluating, especially when we're looking at a lot of big box stores that are parcels that are going to have to be redeveloped, and instead of carving off little small sections, and this gives the opportunity to look at the whole site. And the last question is, with the work that's being done the short-term work on Waukau for Glatz, and then also on the continuing work on Oregon. Have we looked at the impact that's going to have on both Waukau and Hughes? And we evaluated those roadways.
I see James ready to answer.
What kind of impact are you referring to?
Well, you're going to be a diversion of a lot of heavy truck traffic on those.
Hughes Street was just repaved this year, and Waukau, obviously with Glatz Creek being closed for the reconstruction of the bridge culverts, there'll be no traffic going across it. But and I believe east of Oregon, it is not a truck route, so trucks would not be allowed on there.
East of Oregon?
I don't believe that Waukau is a truck route east of Oregon.
Okay, but when you start diverting, with Oregon being either have to go to Hughes, well, Waukau, you've got hydride chemical on there.
If they're going to a business that is there, they can go there, but it's not a through truck route. So, you know, trucks would not be legally allowed to drive from Oregon to Main Street if that's not a truck route, and I do not believe it is a truck route.
You know, it may be, but I think we're parsing what's really happening. But I think it's just something to look at.
And as I said, Hughes Street was just redone this year.
Thank you.
Other questions for the team of gentlemen up there, as long as they're there? Ed?
Just out of curiosity, project occurring on Old Amro Road and what used to be Emmers Lane, is that sort of hand in hand with that now coming into the city from the town?
Yes, with those properties now attaching as a part of the Zone B attachments, this is closing a water main loop to provide services within the city, and also with the town of Algoma planning on reconstructing Amro Road in the very near future. We wanted to get that water main loop constructed before they reconstructed the street.
Okay. So my follow-up question to that, and it's not in here, so this is a personal axe to grind, I guess, is there any, have you guys looked at all about the intersection of what is now West Haven and 21, just in terms of how that intersection functions? I've seen more people have more close calls trying to take either a left, going eastbound, or left going westbound off of West Haven onto 21. That I just wonder now that that particular stretch of roadway is our cross to bear. Is there anything coming down the pike for that one? Have you guys studied it at all? I'm just curious.
It hasn't been studied for a while. I know when Chris Strong was the transportation director here, so that's back a number of years, he did look at that, and there were modifications made to the striping and the turn lanes that came out of, I believe, the traffic advisory, and that's how it was set up today, was based on that study and what was done there.
Okay, so the way it sits today is the way that current thinking is that that's the best way to do it?
At least of 6-8 years ago when Mr. Strong passed it, yes.
Okay.
Worth another look.
It's worth another look.
I happened to catch our city manager crossing on foot a few months back, and I thought, well, this is a good learning experience.
Yeah.
For Mark too.
That intersection is, I don't know if it's just me at that intersection or everybody else, but that one is.
But
that
actually, as much as I don't want everybody's head to explode, but it's actually a great site for a roundabout because it's not a heavy pedestrian using. But left turns on that street are diabolical.
You wanna throw a whole bunch of money into the 2019 or 2020 CIP for that one? You
But
might
anyway,
have our blessing.
Anything else for the?
No, I had one. I just had one question. This may be for Mark. Just looking at the map in 2019, there was a reference to Congress Avenue Park. That I think that looks like maybe it got punted into 2020 because it's sort of further. There is something at Congress Avenue Park in 2020. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing anything in 2019.
After that draft was published, we did find a couple of things in those static maps in the front that
I assume that
we missed adjusting. I see Mark and Darren kind of panning around a little bit on the board on the interactive dashboard. The data shown in there should have been updated based on what was in the draft CAP.
Yeah,
but I
so
did
that-
notice a couple things on the static map after the book was printed that we did not get updated before the maps were printed. So those will get updated and corrected in future editions of the book before it gets.
Okay, I
approved.
just wanted to make sure there wasn't two projects that I didn't see one or something like
No,
that.
I think, the map, the project probably got bumped and the map didn't get updated accordingly. So there were a couple of things like that I did identify right after the books got printed. So we'll work on getting
You're
those
not
corrected.
gonna find a better way to drain Congress Athletic Field across the street or anything like that? It's not gonna be a magical.
Backyard, maybe, or
I'm
Yeah.
not familiar with what's actually going on with that park just yet, so.
It's swimming pool. Yeah, that's cool.
All right. Anyone here from the public speak to this item today?
Field across the street.
Okay, seeing none, back to the commission.
Motion to approve the recommendations.
Oh, did we open it up to?
We did.
Oh, we did, okay.
We were talking, having a side conversation.
Whoa. Ouch.
That was working.
Tough crowd.
Like some aloe vera.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All right, let's call the roll.
Crop,
aye.
Gorsuch,
Aye.
Bowen,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
Kiefer,
Aye.
Weigert,
Aye.
Harry,
Aye.
Mott,
Aye.
Wojtek.
Aye.
Motion approved 9-0.
We have a workshop afterwards, but first we got to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we're done. Workshop time.